Alright guys, I'm going to be showing you how to change the clutch on a 2003 3.8 liter Ford Mustang. We're going to start with getting this battery terminal loose right here with a 1/2 inch or a 13 millimeter wrench. You're going to want to do that so nothing sparks, none of that stuff. It's just for safety. Alright guys, we've took the red terminal loose right here, and you're going to want to get it out of the way, make sure it touches no metal or anything. Now we're going to get to taking the shifter loose. Alright guys, the next thing you're going to want to do is take the shifter loose. You're going to want a pry bar, something like this, or a flathead screwdriver. This is the clean work. You're going to want to do this before you drop the transmission. That's the dirty work. Alright, you're going to want to pry up on the edges right here. Pop that loose. Twist the knob off. Take your boot and everything off, so that way you can get to the shifter part of it. Take the plug loose right there that's connected to the cigarette lighter thing, whatever you call that. Push the little clips down, pull that out, get that out the way. Okay, so now you're down to this. Alright guys, you're going to want to take, these are two 10 millimeters, and you're going to have four 8 millimeters. You're going to want to take them all loose. You're going to want to make sure the shifter is in neutral and hold the shifter while you're getting these two 10 millimeters right here loose. And you're doing all this so that way when you drop the transmission, this goes straight through and it doesn't hit anything. That way you can get it. Alright guys, this is what it's going to look like when you remove all the bolts. I'm going to take this whole thing out right here. Should pop right on out. Just like that. There you go. Now you got room when you drop the transmission. It'll go right down. No problems. Alright, now that the easy work is done, you're going to want to drop the end of the drive shaft, not the part that's connected to the transmission. That way you can drop the transmission. Make sure your emergency brake is on when doing this, and jack up the back so you can get underneath the car. Make sure you put some type of blocks under the wheels so it does not roll. Alright guys, you're going to want to put some kind of block underneath the wheel right there, like a wheel stop. That way the vehicle does not roll. I'm going to show you guys what you need to take apart next. Okay. Alright guys, you're going to want to take the drive shaft loose from the rear axle. There's going to be 4 bolts. You're going to want a 12 millimeter 12 point. Alright guys, we're going to be dropping the drive shaft now. You got all 4 bolts loose. You're just going to want to drop it down. Take your 4 bolts out. Get you a hammer, bang on it a couple times, and try drive shaft should come right loose. Okay guys, you're going to want to take this shield loose right here. This is for the clutch cable. You're going to take these plugs loose, disconnect them from the side of the transmission. That way nothing's holding on to the transmission. Okay, and you're gonna have 4 bolts right here on this bracket. You're gonna want to take those loose. They're 1/2-inch bolts. Go ahead and take those loose and get them disconnect them from the frame.
Just loosen them, not all the way out.
You're gonna want to just loosen these. Don't take them all the way out, because you're gonna want to jack. That way it holds up the transmission, because this is supporting the transmission right here. Okay, this is your starter right here. This is underneath the front of the vehicle. This is where this is the whole transmission right here. Okay, you're gonna want a 9/16 and a 1/2-inch, I do believe it is, for the starter. You're gonna want to get the starter out the way, disconnect it from the transmission, and then you have on the side of the transmission, you have 2 bolts right here. You're gonna have a total of like 8 bolts. There's gonna be 1 up top right here. I do believe it's 8 bolts connecting the transmission. You're gonna want to take this one loose right here. So get all your transmission bolts loose, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, we got the transmission coming down. You're gonna want to unbolt this back piece too. It's gonna have like 4 bolts in it right there. That way you can separate the back end of the transmission and push it back along with the drive shaft back there. And you got these plugs right here. One is going to be on top right here. This plugs in way up there. You're going to want to disconnect all these plugs from the back of the transmission and push this back. Get your jack and jack it up like this. That way it doesn't fall on your head. You're going to want to push that back, separate it from the bell housing. Separate this from the bell housing. That way you can get ready to pull the bell housing off, and you can reach the 2 top bolts up here on the bell housing. You're doing all this so you don't have to drop the exhaust. And you're also going to want to put a jack underneath the harmonic pulley so you can jack up the front of the engine and it tilts it. And this is going to help you a lot. See, this is how we got the jack. That's going to be at the back of the transmission, near the drive shaft, the back end of the transmission. We got a board supporting it too. Okay. Also, there's the bracket that holds the back end. It goes right there. So you can see, you're going to want to take that loose. And there's also going to be 2 bolts in this too, holding it up. So the bracket goes right here on the other side, and there's going to be 2 bolts. Take all that loose, but make sure you got a jack to support that. This is also what it's going to look like. You got your starter loose right there. That's what it's going to look like. It's going to be dangling like that. So go ahead and take that loose so it's out your way. This right here is the pan, or the dust shield around that clutch cable. You're going to want to take that loose and get that out your way too. That's what it's going to look like when you got it loose. Alright guys, so you're going to want to take the jack and jack it up at the harmonic pulley right there. See, I got a little jack right there. Then you're going to want to take another jack and jack this up. So we got that separated from the bell housing. I'm going to want to push that back. Here's the bell housing right here. I'm going to want to take this clutch line right here, clutch cable, and get the pressure off of it and just pull it through there. And now all we have to do is separate this bell housing, and you will be at the clutch. That way you can change the clutch just make sure you got your O2 sensor right here. Disconnect that, get that out your way. You want to make sure all the wires are disconnected from the back end of the transmission right here. And yeah, just push that out your way. It's going to take some wiggling, some prying. It's going to be pretty hard, but go ahead and push that out your way. Get it out your way. Make sure your bracket's loose. There's going to be 4 bolts in the bracket. It's going to be the black bracket. Looks like that. That right there. That's the bracket. There's going to be 2 in the middle. Make sure you get those loose and you're pretty much ready to go. Go ahead and separate the bell housing and you will be to your clutch. Yeah, you're going to have to definitely get the pressure off this clutch cable, remove it and get that out your way, and you should be good. There's going to be 10 bolts in the bell housing. Make sure you got all them out and loose. Go ahead and get them out your way and go ahead and pull the bell housing off. You're going to pry it off and you should be to your clutch. Alright guys, we have removed the bell housing now. After you take your jack and stuff and jack that up, move that out your way. But this is your clutch. Now you're going to have like 6 bolts in it. They're going to be 1/2 inches or 13s. But remove this and just replace your clutch. Once you pop this out, just put your new clutch in and your pressure plate and put it in, bolt it all back up, and you got to put everything back the way it was. This clutch right here was really dusty and dried out. That's why it worn out, because somebody was riding the clutch. But anyways, that's beside the point. Just replace your clutch now. You're at the clutch, go ahead and replace it. This is what the bell housing looked like right here. It's all dusty, super dusty and dried out. So, you know, this was due to improper driving right here, riding the clutch. See all this dust? Very nasty inside there. Alright guys, here's the clutch after we got it out. As you can see, it's burned up. Right here you can tell it's blue. It got super hot. That's from riding the clutch. But another thing I want to tell you guys is you're going to have to get something to hold the harmonic pulley bolt, or hold the harmonic pulley still, period. That way you can actually break the bolts loose on the clutch. Or if you have an impact, that'll work great too. Alright, we're putting in the new throwout bearing in this. You're going to want to make sure these 2 prongs are underneath this lip of the throwout bearing. That's all you got to do.